Hey guys, Lori here, pharmacist. So this morning when I woke up, I don't even know what I saw on Facebook that got me on an aluminum rampage, but I was on it. And I was looking at different things and I reposted, Offit, Paul Offit, Dr. Paul Offit, just so authoritatively saying how it's okay. He was talking about ingesting versus injecting aluminum and how it's all okay. We've been doing this for 70 years. And, well, that's real comforting, except for the problem is the fact that the society is so sick and our children are so sick and we have a ton of vaccines now. So what could be wrong with this picture? Anyway, I continued to research, and in another article that I just posted, it not only gave the list of all the quantities of aluminum in all the vaccines. It says a child will be injected, an infant, with 4.4 milligrams of aluminum by 6 months. But at each little well visit, it's going to average about 0.8 micrograms or 0.8 milligrams. I'm sorry, not micrograms. It's 800 micrograms, 0.8 milligrams. And Offit says in his dissertation, it's an algorithm. He alludes to the fact that the amount that we consume in our diet is so much more than what's in vaccines. Well, if you go 0.8 and then you go, the average individual, in another place in the article it says consumes 7 to 9 milligrams, that's a factor of 10. We're talking about a multiple of 10. Not a factor, sorry. It's a multiple of 10. You multiply by 10, you got 8 milligrams. So that's not a lot. What I need you guys to understand, and what I learned in pharmacy school, and I think why this is such a huge red flag to me, and this is something I'm pretty sure doctors don't know anything about, okay? It has to do with, you learn about what's called the first pass effect in pharmacy school. When you ingest a drug, when you take a pill orally, because of the hydrochloric acid in the stomach, because of all the degradation that the body does to break down food, well, it does the same thing to pills, okay? So that's why we have enteric coated and, these extended release matrix. And there's a lot that goes into making drugs that you can take orally that are going to survive in the stomach and actually be broken down and then enter your bloodstream without being destroyed. There's a lot that goes into that. So also what I was taught about injectables, and I have worked compounding IVs in the past and having to calculate, the amount, the weight of the person and the amount of drug we need so that, you infuse it at a certain rate and then they get into what's called steady state, or you hit the therapeutic level so that drug does what it's designed to do. Specifically, most of what I compounded was antibiotics back in the day. But the point is, the conversion between if you were giving that drug orally versus through an IV is way different because of the incredible absorption rate in IV, which we don't give vaccines IV. We give them IM, which is intramuscular, or we give sub-Q. I think all the childhood vaccines are intramuscular. But the point is, when you inject into that muscle, the body basically sucks it up and it goes into the bloodstream. There's nothing to break it down. There's no barrier there. So, back to the aluminum. So you're talking about, well, we're injecting it and then we multiply times 10 and that's what we're eating. That's hardly a dilution factor at all, if you will. That is a really, really small dilution factor, especially when you're talking about something that's going into somebody's bloodstream and then can end up in the muscles, the brain, and wherever else it's going. Just trying to get that across. And that's why this whole aluminum thing drives me completely insane. And the fact that doctors just slough this off as if this is just no big deal, because it is really a huge, huge deal. The other thing is, I told you I'd been watching this documentary. I'm only about a third of the way through it. And the thing that they're bringing up is that, among other things, so there was a woman that was all kind of back pain, muscle pain. I mean, she just was regressing, a young woman, and it's one of the first interviews in the documentary. And she went from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, and they basically had gotten to the point, they were just, had decided she was a mental case, that it was, and she was really to the point like, am I imagining this? Am I imagining I'm in this much pain? And the pain had spread, like it started in one spot, and then it went down one leg, and then it went down the other leg. And I mean, so, but they finally referred her to this one hospital, and this is all in France. This thing is subtitled, but still, it's so good. They referred her to this one hospital where this particular doctor did a biopsy of her deltoid muscle and found aluminum in her muscle. All right, then they're studying other people, because they're having a lot of people, they go into the numbers, present with these strange symptoms out of the clear blue. We're normal functioning adults, and then suddenly something went wrong. So this one MD starts going, what could it be? Where could this aluminum be coming from? And he even did not realize that there was aluminum in vaccines. So he realized that as he was in his research, and he's had to go back and look at he said we had to go way back and look at medical histories from GPs and everything. But it turned out all of these people had been vaccinated. And this particular woman, it was fairly recently. And so, here they are presenting with all these neurological, one guy, just like his brain stopped functioning the way it should. His muscles were not functioning. He started going to work after these symptoms presented, which he didn't tie to vaccination. And his coworkers were like, what's wrong with you? Or, you never were like this. And it's just heartbreaking. I mean, he breaks down and cries. So anyway, but they tie it all back to, there was actually exactly one study involving 2 bunnies that they used to base injecting aluminum into humans with. And that's it. There's nothing else. And then they lost, after, I don't know what time elapsed, they lost the bunnies, the sample sizes, to continue to look to see if it had seeped into the bones or anything like that. They weren't able to continue. But yet we have continued to use aluminum and call it okay, with that being the premise of everything's fine. And they also found that in the bunnies, at the time frame that they did have them, before whoever lost them or however that worked, the 94% of the aluminum was still in the body after 28 days. So anyway, I'm just throwing it out there, guys. You've got to think, and most of all, you just got to learn that you've got to take a stand with your doctors. You've got to not be intimidated. I'm just empowering you to do that, because this is our children we're talking about, and it's our lives too. I talk to these people all over the U.S. in the job I do now. Most of them are elderly, most of them well over 40. Some, I've even talked to people that were 98. It's pretty funny. But the amount of sickness in our elderly, it breaks my heart every day. And they just settle for the status quo. They're just like, yeah, I've got arthritis. Yeah, I can't do this. I can't do that. And we've just learned to accept that. And I'm sorry. I just don't think it's the way it's supposed to be. And so I'm fighting for a better world. And I'm fighting for awareness. Anyway, love you guys. Any questions? LoriLove77 @gmail.com. Talk soon.